Yeah.
All good. Thank you very much indeed for coming tonight to the meeting of the Town Council on the 17th of January. Just going through the agenda as normal. Apologies for absence, Emma.
Had apologies from Councillor Fuller, Councillor Gray, Councillor Davis, Councillor Rycold, and did you say Councillor Squire as well?
Now, due to baby issues, which is congratulations to her. Lovely. We're okay to accept those? Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Declarations of interest. Any declarations of interest from anyone about anything on tonight's agenda? Planning's on it, so I'd say I live on St Peter's Road just because I always do, and we will move on. If anything does come up, do let us know. Minutes of the previous meeting, we have a proposition to approve and sign the minutes of the full council meeting on the 20th of December as an accurate record. Are there any?
Just a ton of points. Yeah, I think I did say on the day that I am also a trustee of Creative Avenue. It was noted in the minutes.
Okay.
But that was all.
Do we want that added?
Do you want to just add that? If you know where you've got the declare any other interests,
Yep.
if you just put
You got Max down, but not me. I think I did say at the same time.
or you could put it where Max is, just add
I need to read them all now. Oh, there we go. No. I'm looking for-
it's just it's in the finance. Is it in the finance section?
It's under council matters, isn't it? 22/10902.
22/109.
Just where Max.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
So I'll just put council Hutton.
Yeah, as well. Yeah. And then just initial it.
So I'm quite happy to sign them. Anyone's willing to second them? Jamie, thank you very much. Everyone willing to vote on that? Thank you very much indeed. I'll sign all of this. Very much. 22/122, public participation from interested parties, and we have members of the Flettonfield Association here who would like to talk to us, if that's all right. So, Paul and Tony, please. Floor is yours.
Yes. Okay.
Did you?
Where's the best place to stand?
If you want to move your slides on, you can just use the mouse, just click to move. Yeah, so you could stand there if you like.
Yeah, okay, I'll stand here then. Give you a break. I recognise most people. That cancel where did it Max? My name's Paul Evely. I'm a chairperson of the Flettonfield Association. Thought we'd like to give a bit of an update on where we are in relation to Flettonfield from our perspective. I know that you guys are actually also.
Just press the button on the remote down there.
Oh yeah.
Any button?
Just anyone, I think. Yeah.
Lovely, thank you.
Yeah, just like to give you a quick update as to where we are in relation to the process. Clearly, the bids for your bid actually for Flettonfield have gone into an NNC last year and has been evaluated under the asset committee value process. At the time of writing the slides, I wasn't aware of any update, even though we had some communication with Edwina, who is the lady who was dealing with our application. But I think, Emma, you probably have now some.
Yeah, it was confirmed that we were the only person that showed any interest in putting a bid forward. So they're now just working on the next processes, and we'll be in contact in due course.
So at the moment, we don't know anything further than that.
No, that's it.
Clearly, they'll come back. You guys know what their expectations are. When I personally spoke with a valuer in relation to the fee, and he said because the council NNC had actually said it was going to be has to be public open space. His view was that the net worth of that substantially reduced by that. So even if someone else had applied for it, Barrow had applied for it and was going to stop up 10 grand for it or whatever, it has to be public open space, is my understanding. So, it's good news from us.
Can you, I mean, just, sorry to interrupt Paul, but maybe you can Google what pasture land is worth in this part of the world, and it's 1.7 acres or whatever, so you can get a fairly reasonable estimation of value in the public domain fairly easily, which isn't excessive.
Yeah, so hopefully when they come back, they're not going to ask an unreasonable or, if you make a suggestion in terms of what it might be, I don't think the intent is to see how much they can squeeze the pips out of you to get money back in their direction, I guess. Key thing from our perspective, we've been, I've had quite a lot of conversations with Emma of late about how we start to work moving forwards, and we're also talking to my crew who, we have to think about, well, Field Association, we've done this plan, however, we don't actually own the asset, and whenever we, as we were looking at maybe planting some trees on it or creating an orchard, it's quite clear that actually we can't just go and do that, we have to approve anything that we want to do through the council. So, it potentially will be your asset. I've bet my Pinarello dogma to that man over there that by this time next year, you guys will have. Sorry, that's a very expensive dog. You guys will have ownership of it. But we have to establish that working relationship. So to make sure that if we want to do something or are proposing to do something, it's gone through the relevant public scrutiny. And having that conversation with them was quite clear. Let's see how we can establish that process.
May I interject a personal view on the valuation? Historically, it was sold by John Smith's brewery or John Smith's estate to the Guardians of the Poor. Northamptonshire County Council didn't pay anything for it. It was transferred to them as a result of local government reorganisation. It's been transferred from Northamptonshire County Council to North Northampton Council. Again, no cost. So I think they should give it to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I sure you support that. However, there might be some transfer of funds necessary just to oil the wheels to show they've gone through the due process. We'll have to see on that. Key thing though is we need to establish the process. And talking with Emma about also making sure we do that due public scrutiny, what we might have to do. It's really put our group into a bit of a sort of holding pattern because we were thinking, well, actually we were hoping to have started doing some things. But clearly we can't do that until we establish whether or not A, you guys own it, and B, ensure that the things that we would propose to do, you agree with, or have input in, and the public also might have public scrutiny. So what we're planning here, was proposing here, is a way that can happen, basically. So our proposal is that we already have, through our document, I don't know whether you are familiar with it, but we do have a plan document for things we'd like to do. Flecknoe Field Association are going to sit down, discuss that, work out the sorts of things that we might want to do this year, so this calendar year. So that's our step one, is come up with some proposals that we'd like to put to you. Now, what we'd then like to do is to bring that back to you in February this year and say, look, this is an outline of the sorts of things we want to do. Obviously, it's going to be backloaded, so you don't know, might get approval in July or August time. But what we don't want to do is to lose another, if, for instance, we did want to put a community orchard on there, and you guys agree with that, then we want to do the planting season in November. And we also need to make sure we've got the root stock in place, because actually we have all of those things up ahead of time. So come back to you in February with our outline proposals of what sorts of things you'd like to do. Hopefully take your feedback. If there's changes and things, then maybe bring back in March, hopefully a final document that you can approve and say, okay, we're happy with that from council's perspective. And then there is the town meeting in April that we would like to then have a little slot in, and maybe we would have a table in the foyer so people could ask a bit more detailed questions. So we get some public feedback into that process. So, that we hope would work with you guys, really, because we're quite keen to get on and do some things. At the moment, all we can really do is to do some planning and maybe do some, bit of maintenance, go and mow the lawn out there, and maybe clear some ground areas, that sort of thing. But we're not actually planning to do anything until we've got your approval. So that, any questions on that? Does that resonate? Does that seem like a sensible approach to you?
Yeah, makes sense. John?
I've got a question. Does the town council have any seat or part of the process of creating the plan in the first place, which might allow the plan to be more
Jerry can answer.
Yeah, I'm the town council's representative on the Landfill Association Committee, so I sit in the committee meetings and
so is that the liaison?
advise in terms of what I think the council views might be.
And on that basis, we've seen over the last 12 months or more the plans develop,
Okay.
presentations, etc.
Yeah.
My question is really about how you are going to get public input into this. I mean, the public are clearly written into this planning procedure, but how do we engage with the public?
I think you have to perhaps look back at what we've actually done so far, Max, because last year we published our plan. We created a video, which we shared widely on social media. We've created an event for the Jubilee last year where we had 1,000 people on the field. I don't think actually any of the other previous times we've seen quite that many people on the field.
We've also had stalls on the market, we've had stalls in the eco fair in the churches.
Then the other important point, which I think was quite convincing for NNC as well, was the fact that in your business plan document, whatever, you had letters of support from scouts and so on and so forth. So there's a good spread.
Engage with
We've
churches.
contacted multiple community groups to ask them what their thoughts were. So we've taken that feedback. I mean, this is really the next step in that process. Will be, actually the nuts and bolts of the things. I mean, reality will be, I don't think we'll do a write-off on the field this year, but we might want to propose this community orchard, for instance, at the end of the year. And if we do that, or we might want to, we did have an offer of a willow sculpture to be created. Maybe that might be something we might be able to do as well. I don't know. But, and those are things that we would then take to the town meeting, because, at the end of the day, that's another public space where people can feed back. And if we're, we have a stall in the front of that town meeting, it's people's opportunity.
No, that's fine. It's just making sure that there are lots of opportunities for that in the future, which clearly there are.
I mean, we do talk to people as well. I mean, quite honest, often we're working on the field and we'll see people walking through, and people raise concerns and talk with us about what they like to do.
I mean, if I can just interject, Max, I mean, it's always been very, very important that is a community asset, and by community, I mean being able to use both of them. So it's in our best interest as the town councils and as an association that we do have as much community involvement as possible, because it is important that the community hold on to it. And by community, I mean the whole town, everyone in the town, hold on to it and use it and want to use it, because we're just custodians of it. The priority of the use of it, we hope, eventually will come from the community. not by Fletton Field Association or Town Council putting events on the field, but by people in the community coming forward and saying, I'd like to have a fun day on the field. Is that possible? And you just absolutely, given the right criteria and you fulfil the right criteria, which is something we've always discussed, that will happen. It's down to them to create the events that will happen on it. So it becomes truly communal.
John?
Question on funding and finance, are you self-financing or is there a funding requirement for council?
Well, so far, because, the asset hasn't been owned, the only funding that we've raised directly has been via a lottery that we ran last year. And until actually the ownership is confirmed, but even then we would have to do it by your good offices because it's your asset. It's not our asset. But certainly, funding and working out how we can get the funding is one of our key things. We have applied via the Blooming Elm Rule Group, actually, to see whether we can get funding for one of the things you said behind the old house we'd like to do is to do some raised beds. So we put into an Orgean grant last year an application to see if we can raise money for those raised beds. I don't know whether we get it or not, but every little helps. So, and clearly there are people like Baby Stones who may be interested in helping us once we've confirmed that we have the asset, to be honest.
Cool. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I'm sure you're welcome to see stuff, the plans and everything.
Can I just, sorry, there is just one last slide. We have talked about a celebration event in May to coordinate with the coronation. However, in communications with Helen Harrison and Edwina Cowley, we think it's unlikely that we would have approval for the field by that point in time. So we've come up with an alternative suggestion of a possible celebration event held on, what did I say, the 8th, isn't it? I think 8th of...
So the 8th of Monday, 6th is Saturday, 7th, sometime that weekend.
Chaps.
The
Proposed
bank holiday weekend, 6th.
Yeah, there'll be the bank holiday weekend.
No, not in May.
Oh,
No, we actually have proposed a date,
July's not up there.
In July.
actually
after
in July to tie in. Sorry, this is actually the previous slide, but the what we propose is that we would have it on, I think it's the 8th of July, which ties in with what would normally have been the festival week, because Creative Out at the moment having a bit of an issue in terms of their setup. So we thought it might actually be quite good to have something the weekend before they have their party in the park and provide some continuity. This would very much be a community-based event, so it would be like a fete that actually would be something we look to pull community groups in, have local bands play, maybe possible that there might be a formal celebration of the actual handover of the event, so we might have a handover presentation, but if not, it would be essentially a town fete. That's our proposal, and what do you guys think about that? The only issue that we do have is talking with Emma about it. We would have to insure it ourselves if we're organising that event, rather than it being a council organised event. So our question was really to you guys. I know you have a coronation fund, I believe.
Depends how the rest of the meeting goes.
The coronation fund. So the question is, A, do you think it's a good idea? Do you want to get involved? And B, if there is funding available, so we need to, we don't have money to insure that sort of event. It might cost, I don't know, I think when we did the Vintage Festival, it cost that group something about £700 or £800 to ensure the event. That was a bigger event, but this event on the field here would still require public liability insurance, and a number of things such as generators, toilets, to make it a worthwhile event. But if it's going to be the town's asset, it's a focus, gets people involved. There's another opportunity also to talk about what people want to see on the field.
Sounds like an excellent idea to me, because it's my birthday, so we can do a birthday party as well, so I'm all for that. But I'm not sure we're in a position to do all the technical stuff yet. So, no, good idea, but maybe we confirm that in February.
Yeah, we might know a little bit more.
Yeah.
It'd be a good idea to provisionally.
Yeah, but at the moment, if the ownership doesn't get through, then obviously you have to get Northampton's.
Yeah, permission, yeah.
But the issue that we have, and this is why I'm saying this would happen irrespective.
Yeah.
Irrespective of whether it changes hands or not.
Yeah.
But we have to make, to run something like that, you need to start organising it now, not in 3 months' time, because time goes by very quickly. We would have to get an event application in to NNC by Julie. Anyway, we have to get full event application in sooner rather than later, to be honest. Otherwise, we'll run out of time and do it.
And it's also sooner than later, because one would need to tie up marketing and advertising with creative art, for example.
The whole thing would need to be.
I'm not here to talk about creative art, but I think it would be useful to talk to them to try and coordinate a combined advertising and marketing approach.
No, I've been having conversations with Andrew about it, because clearly that's another good, fabulous asset for the town that we want to try and support, and hopefully this will sort of show a bit more continuity in terms of their transition year.
But we're not in a position to say yes to anything else tonight, are we? No, we haven't got a grant policy yet, we don't have a field, so it's a great idea.
We can come back maybe with a bit more detail
In February.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I mean, in the meantime, it's not going to stop you putting an application into NNC to see if you can secure using the field.
Yeah.
You could probably do that.
Well, we could do that speculative. It's just a start on that process, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
Sounds perfect. Brilliant, thank you very much for your time. Thanks, James.
Thank you.
Can you put this in?
Right, 22.123, consideration of requests from interested parties.
I haven't got anything.
22.124, NNC councillor.
Had apologies from Helen. She's got another meeting.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. 22.125, 01, town matters, receive a report from the Ukraine wraparound support group and consider further action. With Sharon Jensen to be last week, and I asked permission to send to you. Now done. It was very interesting reading. Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
Very interesting reading. Particularly the £4 million grants they received. And it's very small amount of money they spent, which, given the fact that we've supported the Ukraine group with a grant to use Flat House, which they're incredibly grateful for, and they've asked if they can come and do a quick presentation to us next month, I think. Just seems a bit odd, really.
Yeah.
Hopefully, I was going to ask our North councillor, but she's not here.
Rupert did send that email where he's written to Tom Perskler, copied in. I don't know how many councillors he copied in. I think Helen was copied in on that as well. So I don't know whether he'll get anything back from Tom, whether Tom will be able to do anything to.
Tom did ask it's in the report actually, the levelling up.
And Rupert asked a specific question to Tom saying this was discussed, can you, get an answer?
What's going on?
So I think, from what I've seen of it, from the work they're doing, it's fantastic. The hub's brilliantly full. the churn of different groups coming to work with them is fantastic, and I know we've had a benefit from that with job centres and things
Yeah.
coming to ask if they can
Job-
use the space, so it's been a brilliant catalyst to lots of things. But those numbers did stand out. Anyway, John.
So the numbers stand out. The other thing that stands out is that there's no, seeing it somewhere in here, there's no ring fencing of that money. So to what extent are we at risk, or others at risk, of that money being spent by NNC on other matters?
Good question. Good
Who
question.
do we ask it of?
Our councillor, but they're not here. Would it be, should I write a letter to Helen formally asking that question?
Yeah, could do, yeah. I think
Especially
it's,
to say there is no money.
I think it's,
There clearly is.
worth them knowing that we've seen these figures.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
silly question. Letter or email, does it make a
I
difference?
think an email is,
I'll draft an email and just send it around later, and if everyone's happy, I'll send it on.
The advantage of an email is it can be easily copied and seen to be copied, so people might,
I'm sure we'll get a good response to that as well. I will draft something, send it around, it'll be very short, effective, well, maybe not effective, but short. Hopefully effective. But anyhow, but I think on all our behalves, our thanks to everyone who's involved, because it's a remarkable effort. It's, if you're not doing anything one Friday morning, pop up, they make wait for tea and coffee. And it's just got a fantastic buzz, as we've seen in the advertising I mentioned there. 22-12502, an update on the ACB process for Flattenfield, I think.
we've had it, that's all I know.
So we wait and hear,
yeah.
which is great news. We could try and create a football-related song. Flattenfield's let's not do that, because I can't sing. 22-12503, an update on the vintage car event on the 15th of July. It's going to be a festive month.
Can I make a patent that says it's classic car?
You can. I'm not sure who you have to be presented to. But a classic car event. I was wondering if we should ask them to market it as a coronation event.
Coronation.
Oh. That's the brand I was hoping for.
Don't give up the day.
You've got too much spare time.
Yeah, I thought about that in the class, and they made exactly the same stuff. So I knew it was a winner straight away. I had to work. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Then.
Take all kinds of carnations.
Even better. Yeah, flower festival.
I
I love it. I'm going to have to put that on my list. Do we need to?
Well, it was just at the last meeting, you didn't feel that you'd had enough information,
No,
so
that's
come
fine.
back with a little bit more. Obviously, I've answered a couple of their questions. And so if you're happy for them to just go ahead, then we can just go back and say,
John?
you are and you are.
So two questions really. One is, would it be helpful for this kind of thing to have some kind of recommendation from the crowd to say, I think we should, or I think we shouldn't, because that would allow us to get some sense of where we're going. But I think on balance, it's a good thing to do. If it doesn't involve any of our resources.
In general terms, for us, there's
No.
the highest closure is NNC.
Yeah, it was just, I think it's just sort of, I don't know whether Lisa's heard back since we've gone and said, you're going to need your own public liability and that sort of thing, whether they're still interested in doing it. But maybe Jerry knows a bit more.
I don't know a lot more now. I think the point I would make is that the same people have organised previous classic car events in the town, and it's been a big draw, and the trainers have benefited from it. Great.
Absolutely.
So they've got a track record of doing a good job, so I'm sure.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to carry an interest because I've nothing to do with them, but
Yeah, I think they just,
I'll be displacing all my classic cars. So.
we told them,
Vintage cars.
I haven't got vintage.
Yeah.
Vintage is pre-war normally. And they will mostly be post-war, I would guess. Classic cars, which is what it said.
yeah, we did tell them that the marshals that we have, we do pay for them. So I think they were potentially going to look at whether they could use volunteers, because obviously it's quite a lot of money. But that's something that they've got to sort out when they do their apply for road closure. They're going to have to do an event management plan but that won't be us. It won't be anything to do with us. So
That seems a good thing. And again, it helps in that festival time.
yeah.
So who actually approves this?
For the road closures, that would be Northamptonshire Highways. Obviously, if whatever insurance they will take out, they will have to make sure that their insurance company are happy with what they're doing. So risk assessments and event management plans, that sort of thing. Obviously, we sort of, Lisa's advising them on who they need to speak to. So police, fire, letting the people know in the town what's happening and if they're going to have a one-way system. But I don't think they're going to. I think they're just shutting off New Street, so it's not.
So it's all
Yeah.
closed.
I guess my question is around, given that the town is going to suffer from as well as benefit from the event, do we have any other skin in the game, or is it just they're telling us out of courtesy?
They're simply giving us an update.
Yeah.
But we've got no decision power.
Max?
Yeah, just to note, the 15th of July is also the same day as Party of the Wolf, which in a sense can be a good thing, but we might need to think about managing traffic, car parking, etc.
That's a good point. Can you feed that back to?
Yeah. I
Because that's.
didn't realise that.
Yeah, I think it definitely deserves thinking about, because in some ways they could be complementary, because they don't
So
overlap.
fair enough.
And it makes them a whole
Yeah.
event.
The other benefit.
Conversely, it could be a nightmare, because you've got two people at the town.
Precisely, there's plus and minuses. I think it's generally on the plus side, but it just needs to be.
Do you do any road closures for that? Do you have any one-way systems or anything in place, or is it?
No, I mean, obviously, the Party of the Wolf normally has parking at the wreck,
Yeah.
and they have their own stewards to organise that. And this is due to end at 5, so I'm really thinking about the traffic, because
Yeah.
you might have a lot of people trying to leave when people are coming in, if you see what I mean. We just need to think a little bit carefully about.
Yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, maybe say 3 o'clock finish for the classic car show, and see if that works for them. You've got a couple of hours
Yeah.
to sort things out. And they might be very happy with that, because it's all the most of the day.
They might also, it might be prudent for them to talk to the school, because obviously the school's not in theory functioning at the time, so they might have more car parking.
Yeah.
Make available, get everything working in harmony. Yeah, exciting.
Okay.
If you want them to tell me to contact me.
Okay.
Contact the people there. Thank you very much indeed, sounds good. It could be a busy day. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you.
22-126, Council Matters 01, the Mayor's Report. It's not particularly exciting. I didn't have much to do at Christmas, unfortunately. I've mentioned the Transport Report later on. I was talking to someone about doing a Mayor's Quiz in QBH, because it's what all the mayors do things. And I've tentatively tried to get the Lord Lieutenant to have a team on the 12th of April when QBH is free. So we might have to look at whether that's an option or not. I just need to find a good quizmaster. I've got my own hand somewhere. States Committee went down to look at the maintenance, warehouse, what do you call it?
The workshop.
The workshop, that's the right word, starting with W. So thanks to them. Conversations about grant funding for the skate park, which we decided to apply for money,
Yeah.
which has now got planning permission for the skate park, so that's great. I was in contact with Vistry as a resident. They mentioned the road closure, and they've now been in touch with the council and got the notice board, so there's a nice bit of linkage there, hopefully. Ukraine wraparound support group we talked about, and then a reminder about the Business Association meeting in here on the 31st at 6 p.m, where they're hoping to get some of the Northampton councillors, some of us in, talk to some of the businesses, talk about the transport report, etc., etc. And I think they've got some other presentations they'd like to do, so it'd be great if as many of us could be here that evening. I'm sure there'll be some nice wine from Amps to act as an encouragement. There we go. One other thing, 17th, I said that there was a proposed meeting with the surgery and the integrated care board. That's now been finalised on the
26th. It's a Teams
Teams meeting. It's a
3:30 rather than 4 o'clock.
Sorry, 3:30.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, it wasn't 4 o'clock. That's what they've offered. I said I think I could do 4, but I'm going to try to do 3:30. But I've emailed them already. But if any, it's a Teams meeting at 3:30 on the 26th
Of January.
of January to talk to 2 or 3. I'm not entirely sure how many people. In the
Yeah, if anybody wants the link, I'll forward it to.
So we can see what it is. It's a relatively short meeting. It might be there are other meetings to be on, but it's asking the questions that Rupert was keen that we asked a couple of months ago about future links and the future of the surgery to an extent. Jerry.
I'm offering the services of a meeting owl, if anyone's heard of a meeting owl. It's a device that's intended to enhance online meetings, which has been invested by one of the businesses that I work with, and is in my possession.
What is a meeting?
It's a little thing that sits at the table, looks like an owl, and it hoots at you, and it's got a 360-degree camera in it.
Yeah.
And so if you're all sat around a table, it basically can show all of you in panorama.
That sounds exciting.
And whoever starts speaking focuses on and brings them up on the screen. So if you wanted to be in a Teams meeting in the offices with a meeting owl, which is quite a nice bit of kit. I haven't used it yet, so it might be
We could
fingers
try
crossed.
a meeting.
I'm happy to bring it along.
We could have a
on
little
that date.
practice, couldn't we?
Yeah, I'm happy to bring it along that date and have a go. It might make it a bit more.
That sounds great.
Than the hybrid
We
meetings
use one in
offline.
Cambridge for virtual meetings, so it's fine.
Yeah.
Okay,
Well,
well,
that
that's,
does work.
so technically it would be here at 3:30 with the meeting owl, or potentially online if you wanted not to use the meeting owl. Meeting owl sounds very exciting. That seems pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
brilliant.
might have to charge a higher fee to Maserati.
Well, we have to wait till the budget to be through next year. Thank you very much indeed. Emma's report 22-12602. Anything else to raise, any of that? No?
Oh, sorry, me, no. I hadn't actually got anything to add to other than the general correspondence that had come in.
Thank you very much. And it was nice to get some
Prime
praise at the
figures.
end of one of those. 22-12603 to consider changing the time for the Christmas market. Earliest.
Yeah, this was something that came up at the end of the market last year because it ends at 7 at the moment.
Yeah.
12 till 7. Quite a few had sold out. And we also noticed a lot of people do come earlier, so they start selling earlier. And one of the stall holders raised it. So Lisa contacted them all. I think she's still got a few to respond, but on the whole, they all agreed that they would prefer to start earlier. And the preferred time was 10 a.m. till 5 rather than 12 till 7. So.
So anyone have any strong views for or against? Jerry?
My only thoughts are that we normally do the tree light turning on and things at the end of the day, don't we?
We could do that. We normally do it at about 5, so we
Right.
could always bring it forward and do
But
it at
also
about
this year we
4:30.
Turned the lights on and left them on,
Right,
so there was no formal.
there wasn't anything. I was just thinking whether, you end up with a lot of people still milling around and they're all trying to pack up their vans and just have the safety really of packing up and vehicle movements.
Well, being there at sort of near 7, it starts getting a little bit quieter anyway, considerably quieter at that time.
Yeah, I was sort of there 6:30 and the food stalls were getting busy, but then people were drifting off some of the shops and some of the stalls empty. So maybe 10 till 5, 6-ish, and then just turn the lights on. So, because the nice thing is people wandering through at 3:30 and 4 o'clock, we're getting the benefit of the lights. Jeremy?
Just from the co-op haven't still, we weren't selling anything, but it definitely, I think the general consensus from the people we spoke to was that especially it was actually really cold, genuinely really cold. So by 5 o'clock, I think is a good cut-off time, and it's dark as well. So you can have the lights as the last thing of the day.
So maybe 10.
We didn't we sort of discussed the estates, we didn't really do anything this year, but next year maybe we might make more of an emphasis on.
I think the argument was that we needed an event, a thing,
Yeah.
or else it was just being.
Yeah.
And then people have lost an hour and a half of nice basking,
Yeah.
lights, etc.
People have said to me, my feedback was, could we have the lights on earlier? Because
Okay.
that, for the younger children, I think.
I think it's the highlight that
It is.
everyone turned on and then an event perhaps.
It just strikes me that starting it at 10 is probably a boost to the other local shops, because it's bringing people in earlier.
Yeah.
Whereas if it goes on from 7, a number of the shops will have closed at 5. So it seems to me to make more sense to align it.
They'll also catch a large itinerant audience that wander through at 11:10 on the way to the co-op.
Yeah.
Obviously. Like locusts and all. So yeah, I mean, whether we said, for example, 10 till 5 and then ask the traders not to start moving bands until it was deeper sale. Yeah, that sounds fine. Yeah,
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you very much indeed. 22-12604, this was the coronation grant paid for I put forward last year. Some points were made, I think. The issue about the sort of the limits on grants and an idea of what a normal grant might be. I tried to reword it, gave everyone the option to have a look at it, and no one, as far as I can see, has changed anything. So, again, I think most of the questions we were looking at last time were already answered in the grants policy itself. And the idea is to base it on the grants policy, to not make any extra work as well.
Well, it will do, it wasn't there.
Okay. So, any queries or questions, Jerry?
Oh, I was going to say, I read it and I thought it made some eminent sentence, but just right to me.
So two questions. One, and I think I know the answer to the first one. How is it judged and who does the judging? I think from reading this is the Finance Committee.
Finance Committee made judgments, so
Or make the recommendation to council.
they make a decision as to grants.
Well, up to a grant of £2,000, which you've said that it,
I think we said 2,500.
Yeah.
So.
but the terms of reference for finance is 2,000. So anything above that, the finance committee could look at it and make a recommendation, but full council would need to approve it.
And those terms of reference include the judging criteria. How much?
We haven't really got a judging criteria as
So
such.
there's, if you look on the grants policy, there's a long list of things that can inform a decision, but there's no criteria.
Yeah.
So, for example, annual base is good, but if it's outside hours, once residents use it, that's fine.
Because, sorry, just to give you that in there, I read somewhere else in another document sent through that there are NMC grants also available.
Yeah.
Coronation year. So, to what extent should we be using our money or NNC money? How do we make the distinction between us granting and some people go to NNC? What's that? How does that process work? Is that contained within our grants policy?
No, because I don't think the NNC policy would have been in existence when our grants policy was written in 2019.
So I'm just wondering if somebody makes an application to the Finance Committee, whether it's 2,000 or 2,500, whatever it is. How do we determine whether that's something that could go to NNC or it's something we're doing ourselves? Because if we can use some NNC money as well as our own money, it gives us a wider coverage.
I suppose my answer to that would be that if we don't get a policy advertised so that people can contact us by the 8th of February, we're not going to get any grants in place by the coronation. So we might have to bite the bullet on some of those and recommend some people go to NNC as well.
Okay. So I'm not decrying the policy. It's a good policy. It's a good motion. I'm just interested more in the practicality of the process.
Well, just two things, I think. One, just to pick up on that last point, one of the criteria that we use in the Finance and General Purposes Committee in looking at grants is the application form itself says, have you applied anywhere else for it?
Okay.
So, of course, if we see that people haven't applied to NNC, one of the options open to us would be to say, well, have you thought about doing it. If we think from our reading of what NNC are doing at that point, that might be an answer. And my second point was simply this, that actually given the limitations for the F&GP, would it not make sense to limit these grants for a figure of up to 2,000 so that they can all be dealt with in the F&GP rather than
That seems-
F&GP having to make recommendations to full council over perhaps 500 quid?
One of the reasons I just came up with the figure of 2.5 was the fact that there was a suggestion that an event could be for coronation, but if that's going to be for the coronation, that's where the 2,500 figure came from. So a 2,000 figure would seem elegant more sensible, given that limitation. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry to be a bit pedantic, but the wording might need some subtle changing or some punctuation, because otherwise it's ambiguous what is meant by the and or the or. It doesn't, the way it reads at the moment, it could be interpreted that the and are the two things separated by the or the or is separate from the and.
Forgive me for not knowing exactly where we are, which and and which are.
Oh, well, the ones that are in capital in that first.
This is in the bit where grants, in the paragraph it says grants will be awarded, blah, 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 blah.
Mhm.
And then it says, and in all cases, legacy will be best defined as something that will commemorate the commemoration in 2010 thing, and produce something that will be capable of enhancing a given location now and in the future, or I think what you probably mean is and either produce or, because otherwise the or could be taken to be meaning something separate from the and. Sorry to be pedantic,
No,
this is
please
the way
be
the English language works.
Well, I think I stole that definition from the OECD, so you probably can.
I think if you just literally insert the word either after the and,
So, and either produce something.
Or, I see what you mean,
so
yeah.
the or
Yeah,
is a sub-clause of the and, not a separate clause.
Yeah.
So,
I'm disappointed that I didn't pick that.
No.
don't worry, I'm not. This is how I get things better and give it to other people. Jerry?
I was just going to say, I hadn't realised there was a money available potentially from North so taking away that. I just wondered whether it was worth us putting in a submission ourselves and saying we are establishing a fund to distribute small sums locally, and rather than it all coming out of our coffers, we not ask for £5 from Northampton perhaps to cover half of it.
That's my idea.
Sorry, the other.
I'm not saying that council isn't here to say no.
I'll have a look at it. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah,
There'll be a criteria. I have a feeling that we would have to tell them what we're doing
Okay.
as an event.
But maybe whether
But they might,
yeah,
yeah.
maybe what we've written it would be enough to say this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, they're supposed to be delegating stuff down, aren't they?
Yeah.
Aren't they?
Well, they are, but then they do look to try not to.
They've got £3.8 million sitting around, so.
there might be other events too, where the Lord Lieutenant would be giving up.
He is going to be, at some point, he's going to tell us what's happening.
He is,
He'll be
right.
doing the in Northampton.
Unconnected. What's stopping us if the F and GP has £2,000, what's stopping you making it £2,500 and fitting that whole thing together? Why is it 2,000? Who makes a decision it's 2,000? When was it last raised? Could it be 2,500? And this may not be an appropriate juncture.
That's
to
probably not
discuss
the
that.
appropriate time to discuss that.
It's just a question to
Yeah.
raise to you.
I
The
wonder,
trouble is, if we do it, our process is it would require a change to standing orders. You have to give a month's notice, so it would go on the agenda for February to be looked at in March. By the time we've actually looked at it,
Coronation will be in place, coronation.
we will be up to our, certainly on it, Prime Minister.
just on that, I'm just wondering whether we put that the limit will be, if we say it's going to be 2,000, and maybe not necessarily put a range in there as well,
I didn't
because
put that in because that's. what
Yeah,
was.
I just think,
We're having-
individual grants will be given up to,
Yeah, so that's
Well,
fine.
yeah.
And on that, I was going to suggest that saying will be paid unless in exceptional circumstances might be a hostage to fortune. we either kind of know what those exceptional circumstances might be, or why not just say no grant over 2,500 will be paid,
Or 2,000.
and it is expected that most will be in the range, because
I'm very happy to, I didn't put that in
Mm.
from last time. So, if we make the change of and either or, and we reduce the grant, maximum grant to 2,000.
Yeah.
And we cut out the waffly bit at the end, do I sense that most people are generally happy with the principle? And then we find a way of getting the word out about as quickly as we can.
Well, we
Next
can,
week.
we can just
And
start.
then beyond, yeah. Okay, do we need to vote on that? Yeah, so I'm happy to propose with those changes of either and or and £2,000. Is someone who's seconded? David, thank you very much. Are we happy to vote on that? Lovely, thank you very much indeed. Emma, I'll send you a redraft.
Yeah,
version.
okay.
My homework marked. Problem. Thank you very much indeed. 22-12605, to elect Councillor Wade to the Communications Working Party.
Just like get it in there,
Yeah.
well, as you were showing interest.
Yeah, you had a chance to say no. I'm very happy to propose that we elect Councillor Wade to the Communications Working Party.
You want a second?
Yes, please, thank you, Val. Councillor Wade, it's too late now.
It's not being voted on.
You can run. I'm happy to ask for anyone to vote on that. Thank you very much indeed. You can ask next time, but it's easy. 22-12606, to consider allowing the Trussell Trust to use an area in the Fletton House for the food bank and citizens' advice. Any thoughts, Jerry?
The only thought I had about this, isn't there already a food bank in Amble, and is there going, is it?
That
makes
is the
sense to
one.
have two, and should
So
we
that's
across?
That's the one, they're running out of space.
Ah,
And I think they want, because I think are they down at, places down at St.
okay.
Paul's?
Methodist Church.
Yeah, and I think they want to, I think they sort of want to remove, they want to move away from it being in a church, because they want it to be free for everybody.
No, in that case,
Um,
absolutely no issues in that case.
Yeah, so, and also they've got this funding for citizens' advice, and we did have them here. So it would mean that they would be here on a weekly basis as well.
That's an excellent idea, and it's an excellent use of the facility day and night
Yeah.
in the youth club versus them in the day.
What is going on with the youth club at the minute?
They're still sorting some things out. There was talk about it at the end of this month, but it's not going to happen. So we think that's going to move on to maybe February. But the Trussell Trust have also got funding to purchase lockers, and we thought they may be able to put some lockers at the far end. They could also use the office that's in the preschool, and that can be locked,
Okay.
because I don't think maybe the youth club are necessarily going to be wanting to use
Yeah.
that straight away. So we think they can work together.
And that's what we need in space.
Yeah.
Have the youth club know about this?
No,
No.
they don't. No, but they, we can talk to them about it. It just seemed that, I mean, we also talked about it being in an area in the hub. So it could be that it could start in the preschool area, but then maybe move to the hub. But we thought that it sort of lends itself. People can come in; they don't have to come through the building.
Yeah.
It's quite private.
No, it's a good use of it.
Yeah.
David?
I'm just thinking that citizens' advice bit, and we have a long history with the Citizens' Advice Bureau connection to the council. But is the proposal that they actually pay for the hire for the citizens' advice, bearing in mind that we charge volunteer action, we charge chat?
That's the Trussell. It's all to do with the Trussell Trust. That won't be us. They are funding citizens' advice to come
But they
on
are
a weekly
using our-
basis.
Our space to do it in.
But we
thought
would
we should be
charge.
charging them rent for
Yeah.
We
it.
would be charging the Trussell Trust, not citizens' advice, because they will come with the Trussell Trust.
So they have
But we would charge
to pay our normal
They'll be paying our
charge.
rent. They'll be
Right,
paying
that's
normal
fine.
rent. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
So it's a win-win everyone.
yeah.
So I suppose the only thing is that we make the youth club aware that this is going to be but we've always said it's a multi-function
Yeah.
area, and that's
Totally,
why,
Yeah, yeah.
and we think it's a very good idea. Do they have any idea on the timescale? It sounded quite soon.
So I think it may be fairly soon. I think Morag's going to have another conversation and we'll get it, we'll sort of sort out the finer details because obviously they've got to purchase these lockers and things.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to happen
I
overnight.
think the meeting's fully in support of that.
Yeah.
As an idea. The only thing I was thinking about that states might be talking about next week is the lockers. Because if they're getting 5 lockers and we could get 2 more that we could use or the youth club might use or something, I have no idea who they come from, how they're fitted, but it might be worth us.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, so if they could just keep us in touch, that would be great. Thank you very much indeed. 22-12607 to consider local government boundary commission for England. The North Northamptonshire electoral review consultation. I was asked to whether we considered this by a resident. I said we sort of had, but it didn't seem much to be going on. And I've checked again. At the moment, there's a deadline of the 6th of February where individuals in North Northampton and elsewhere and organisations such as ourselves could make representations to the Boundary Commission. But that's all they are, representations. Then written down here, the 2nd of May to the 10th of July, they will put forward some suggestions, and then there'll be a period of consultation where individuals and organisations can talk about those and feedback. And then October the 3rd, they're going to release their sort of final decision, which would then be approved by someone important, with an idea of them being in place by May 2025. I'm not sure we have any strong views one way or the other that we need to be made, but I thought I'd get on the agenda and see what we think. It's nothing to do with us directly, it's North Northampton boundaries.
As you said, it's already vague at the moment, isn't it? I think until they come up with some proposals.
I think the proposals, Warmington seems to be stuck on its own in the Thrapston group, but I don't think that's saying that that's going to be a thing that changes. It is.
Yeah, strange.
And my understanding, I'm not saying my understanding is wise, is that they try and balance out the numbers. And obviously, we were too big, and Warmington was on its own. I think there's a view that the villages could all be merged now and has its own single dedicated councillor, the villages share others. But I have no idea how that works. It's to do with population, I think. But again, that might be something we might want to consider talking to Warmington about and putting forward once we see what their suggestions. But at the moment, it's on its going to extent, isn't it?
I think they're reducing the number of councillors as well, are they?
Slightly.
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought they had them.
78 at the moment, so they're reducing it down.
I thought it was increasing. So, yeah, I mean, let's see what they come up with. 22-127, approve the bank reconciliation balance sheet and budget for December 2022. Rather worrying, it says the monthly bank balance is as follows, and there's no number. But I suppose that's just,
Sorry?
there's no number next to the bank.
Well, I have updated it since then, and there is a number. I did notice there wasn't a number, but
I saw that, I thought, oh, worrying. I checked the bank account earlier, there's money in it.
if you've got the up-to-date one on your list, you'll see that it's got
No, I haven't. I don't
figures
have
in it.
Sunday, I'm afraid. Sorry. So any questions, queries about the bank balance sheet, budget, etc.? I'm happy to propose that we approve it. Someone's willing to second it. Thank you very much. We're all okay to vote on approving it? Lovely. Thank you very much indeed. Payments, as always, scheduled payments for December 2022, percentage of the time are paid. I made a note about the blue moon thing, which we touched on earlier. Any questions, queries about the payments? I'm happy to propose that we pay it as needed. I was wanting to second it. We all okay to vote on that? Okay, thank you very much. To approve the increase in the bank's payment limit from £20,000 to £50,000.
Yeah, we've had a couple of times where I think it was where the wages, we had the wage increase and then the back pay, and it just put the back's payments over 20,000 and we got charged £100. And it's just happened again with the including the public works loan for the QVH. So again, we were charged. So Paul has suggested that we increase it so that we don't get charged.
Jerry?
Well, it just seems like it's 2.5 times as much.
Yes.
Does it need to be 50 or could it not be 30 or 40?
Well, I think it was just that thought of, if ever we have, this was Paul's recommendation.
So
Just
the two you referred to, how much were they? Do you know?
Sorry?
The two you referred to, do you know roughly how much they were?
No, I don't, not off the top of my head, no. I mean, hopefully, I think it's just a case of thinking of that. It'll possibly, well, I would imagine it will never get up to that, but it's just making sure that it doesn't happen again, and it just means that we haven't got to come back in another year's time and do another amendment.
David?
Well,
This is a
I was a
cost
bit
of
struck as Jerry was, that, to go up 2.5 times and maybe Paul's recommendation, but really need to be as high as that? I mean, having said that, I'm not sure I can see a problem with it.
No, I mean, we do approve all the payments anyway, and I'm not, there's no suggestion that any payments would be going out, we weren't happy with it, but yeah, I mean, yeah.
John?
I think David's already tackled this. My view is, yes, it's a high increase, but actually that level doesn't really matter. What matters is the approval process. The approval process isn't changing.
No.
So whilst I'm a bit taken aback at the size of the increase, I don't see it as a problem, because that's not the real decision maker. The decision makers before that.
Yeah, it might just be there's a button on the screen and it's 20.
But it's just,
Yeah,
it just means that, if ever we've got a back's payment, all of a sudden that's, I don't know, 25,000 for something, that means that we could potentially be near 40,000. And so where do you put that? I mean, I'm going by Paul, he deals with all the payments, he's come up with this figure, I was quite happy with that figure, because it does, like, it has no impact on us, other than if ever we have a big backs payment that we've got to pay, we don't have to worry about it, us being charged £100.
It seems fine on that basis, and as you say, that the approval process doesn't change.
Yeah, nothing else changes, yeah.
So I'm happy to propose that we approve the increase from 20 to 50,000 to 2 Jamie, to make a vote on that. So there we go, that's fine. Thank you very much indeed. And to approve the signatory for the Unitary Trust Bank account. This is Councillor Fuller, I think.
Well, and this is to see if we can have anybody else who's interested in,
Anyone else?
Can't be me.
because, no, and it can't be you, John, either. It's just that we've got, at the moment, you're a signatory, David's a signatory, but I don't think you've fully set yourself up, have you? And myself, but at the moment, and really, I shouldn't really be signing off the payments, it should be another councillor, but obviously we've been sort of working with what we've got. We're setting David Fuller up as one, so that would potentially mean that we've just got 3 councillors, and
Just in case.
it would be nice to just have one more.
Can't be John, because he's already accounting, can't be Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah, she does that, yeah.
Fine.
Jerry.
Oh, thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, Jerry. Don't worry, it's fine. You know,
No, that's fine.
the answer to his name.
Done.
Thank you very much indeed. 22128 Highways Matters, to receive a report from the Transport Working Party. This is good David and myself at the moment. And TPP have finally delivered the final report. There's nothing of any change or excitement there. It's quite a weighty document.
Did you want your little?
Yeah, if that's possible. Oh, it's on that. So I did a précis, less than 2 sides. I tried to get the basics, and then I was stuck on a PowerPoint, because I thought, if my view, which I sort of put in that email I sent out to you the other day as well, is that all we're doing is representing the report from TPP. These are not recommendations as such yet. It's just a simple version of here's what they recommend. And over the next few weeks and months, it would be really good to go out to people and just get some consultation.
Well, I have to look at it this way, but it's just not.
Don't mind.
Did you want me to?
No, I can do it. I'm going to stand over here, but I'm used to them. So this is partly to do with what we might put forward at the town meeting with any variation, but it's just the wording of the Précy stuff on the slides. It's really nothing more advanced than that. So I tried to put something in about methodology. It's the first one for a while, and of course it might be the first one for a while as well. And with the new report as it stands, we've got 11 megabytes of data. Because when we sat in here and talked to highways, they were saying we need data. And really that's the nub of the whole thing, is to get some data. So we've now got lots of data. They monitored, they looked, etc., and as the report says, they put lots of things together. Some key elements that I picked out that I thought were, I mean, that was an interesting one, that Hamlet's population has grown by over 20% since 2000, and it's going to possibly grow by as much again. That's a big percentage.
Before 2032 as well, because
Yeah.
you've got two big developments.
That's right. And then opportunities being missed to link development to pedestrian cycleway with section 106 and stuff over those 10 years. So in a way, we've sort of lost ground since 2010 or 2011, and we've got this wide rural catchment area. So people are coming in, they're driving in. And it's interesting in the lap presentation we had from Northampton or ICB or whatever they were called, that we are very much at the centre of this big group, and we're in the middle of it, and that's it. Key elements, again, nothing particularly exciting, lots of cars being used, but a surprisingly large amount of walking from previous reports, which is good. Potholes, lots of concerns that were picked up on the consultation questionnaire that we did a while ago, and they pulled some of that information out. Nothing particularly exciting, but it's nice for us to go to highways and say this is what people told us, and we can tell people this is what they told us. And when we present highways with the document, is there anyone who can do anything about it really? We can raise issues beyond that as well. The traffic counts are really interesting. Again, I've tried to pull out the key things. There's lots of data, and there's vast amounts more data on all the information they've given us. But Glapthorne Road is the big one for peak flows and speeds, particularly coming from the north. And it's interesting, there's a wall down at the moment. There's a cyclist knocked down a couple of weeks ago. We had a death there recently. So all within about 50 metres of each other. So, you know, there does seem to be a problem there. Northbound on New Street has the highest percentage of speeding vehicles as a percentage, but they make a point in the report that's a 20-mile-an-hour area, but it's still the highest percentage. Then westbound on West Street and southbound on Glapthorne Road. Glapthorne and New Street have the highest percentage of vehicles speeding 5 to 10 miles above it. And we've got the SID report coming up in a minute, and that sort of sums that up. And then the traffic in town, this is what they've been mulling over, how to get data out on the number of axles and weights. And they've come up with that statistic that different roads have different usages, but it's not particularly exciting in any way, shape or form, but the data's there. And then they conclude, which I thought this was a good paragraph to highlight, there are transport issues, and if they remain unresolved, it could impact on the character and vitality of the town and its current successful town centre. They are issues that cannot be properly identified or resolved using standard capacity modelling. One of the issues with a lot of the planning applications the last 5 years is that a big weighty document with lots of numbers is put forward to the planners, and they say, well, that looks okay because all the numbers say it's fine, but the numbers aren't reflective of the problems we have. Further developments in the town and the surrounding area is likely to exacerbate the problems, and therefore should be considered in any future transport assessments or planning, and appropriate mitigation included within the Section 106 agreements. Some suggested solutions have been put forward in Chapter 6, and they need to be investigated further. And then those solutions are sort of the ones that they put into short, medium, and long term. One of them is the 20 mile an hour down here, which is on that map. And that's just some suggested areas that we've talked about, the voluntary green signs that we may or may not get from highways. Some medium-term ones, and of course they'll probably almost definitely take funding in some way, shape or form. And then the idea of remodelling the marketplace. Again, this is not a recommendation from us, this is just what TPP have put forward. And I think a consultation process between now and the annual town meeting would be useful to see what people thought about it. And then opening Herne Road up to the A605, which isn't going to happen in the next couple of weeks. So that's the process I put together, which I hope sort of largely gets the character of the reporting. What I've suggested on the email around to Luke and David was sort of a staged approach of a couple of things. First of all, to put the report on our website, so it's accessible to everyone in the town. We're not making a recommendation, it's just here's a report we've been presented in its entirety, if the website can cope with it. We've got the 2-page summary if you are happy with the broad view and the apostrophes, etc. And we make the case that this is just a process of report, not our policy moving forward. We start booking in a range of surgeries where we stand and talk to people about it, and some people will moan about A or love B, whatever it happens to be. I've already booked with Karen, I think, some space on the market in half term, when I'll be able to go and stand on the farmers market on Saturday, February the 11th, and the normal market on Thursday, February the 16th. I'm very happy to have anyone come and stand with me, or you can just stand over there and point at me and throw things, whichever you prefer. And again, if we can publicise those, I've suggested some other locations here, the museum. I suggested the bus stop on Benfield Road. I couldn't find anywhere else up Benfield Road, but somewhere at that hill. Whether we go to the primary school or somewhere else, I'm not entirely sure. Just try and get seen by as many people as possible, just to get views. And I'm not sure the best way of recording that. I'd be really interested in your thoughts on that. So that by the annual town meeting on the 27th of April, we can present what TPP have given us, add in the broad view of what people have said, and then we can give it all to Highways and say, here's what we've been recommended, here's what we like, here's what the town likes, and then see what happens. And we need to make the point all the way through that none of this is necessarily within our ability to change, but we can suggest, push, Cheshire, pressure, and also hopefully start in the planning committee where they're able to say, here's our view of the data, etc. And then present at the town meeting and take it from there. Sorry, I talked a lot. Any thoughts?
Just if you email me those dates of when you're going to be at the thing, I'll come on.
Thank you very much indeed.
All right.
I'll try and if I can as well.
Thank you. I shall email and pass around. We're hoping to get some of the dates in the next advertiser if possible.
I think they're
and be sitting,
Mhm.
so we can get it publicised. So I won't be totally on my own. But no, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, 2 unrelated issues. I was a bit confused about, in one of the documents, what you meant by holding things in the bus stop and the museum. Were these just up for...
They were just ideas that came to my mind about trying to be geographically around the place.
Would these be on different days and times?
Yes, I think so. So I think we've got February, March, April over the next couple of months. If we can find time in the museum, would let us sit there. David Phil was quite keen on doing it there. Have an hour or so where a councillor was in the museum. If people wanted to come and talk in a warm, dry space rather than a bus stop, then they could. And if they didn't want to, well, that's fine. So they were just suggestions about places we could hold surgeries.
Do we need to make a decision on that now, or we just...
Not at all. If we've got a couple we can put in and get the ball rolling in February and then start building more in that.
And the other thing is that, again, I'm more than happy with the document, but I'm sure people will ask what is meant by short, medium and long term. I mean, is it worthwhile at least thinking about how we define those things?
It sounds good, but it could be dangerous as well. I think that might be one of the conversations to have perhaps and see what people might think short term is a week. It seems unlikely, but it could be a couple of years. I'm not sure. Maybe that's something we should ask people what their thoughts are. So,
I think the problem with that is everything won't really be our decision. It will be Highways implementing that. So they would lead on the timescales.
I can see the problem of trying to answer the question, but the question will clearly be posed, I'm sure.
I think it maybe we should use it as an opportunity to say, this is a tool for leverage for us, and we can concentrate on the short term, and we can hopefully focus on the medium term, and then head on the long term maybe. I'm just going to go around in order, if I may, David.
My recollection is when we were consulting on the neighbourhood plan many years ago, when we held public events, people were asked to jot down things, and then members of the neighbourhood plan working party literally went through these written responses and tried to do a count, what numbers they had relating to various different items. But potentially it's a hell of a job, because if you get a lot of feedback, there's going to be an awful lot of data to do the number crunch. But maybe we should think about.
I was wondering if it might be worth doing that and creating an MS form with a couple of questions and ask that in a minute, and then do a printed version of that. And then it would be nice to say to highways, we've said we've consulted, here's a big spreadsheet with lots of words on it, we hand it over to them, and then here's a paper version. My only question would be, would you go for, do you like all the short term or the medium or long term? Or would you say, here's a box, fill it in, see what you think? I don't know what the answer is.
So just to know what David said, I have the same concerns. I worry about short-term, medium-term, long-term, it's maybe early priorities, later priorities, something like that. I wonder whether it might be worth using this document, if that's going live, as the precursor to any feedback. So we might say, which of these items do you want to talk about? Is it the 20 mile an hour zone? Is it the AR system? Is it whatever it is? So that we can categorise them. That might make it easier.
So it's a tick box.
Yeah. I just wonder also whether we ought to get that agreed fairly early, because if you're starting on the 11th of February, which ain't that far away, and the 16th of February and then thereafter, we ought to have a process, A, for collecting, and then B, for analysing, because if you're going to present this at the town meeting on the 27th of April, you need the data in by the beginning of April. It's Easter in the way as well. So if you need
free time over Easter.
you need to really have the data in.
Yeah, I think the other thing though is to manage expectations, isn't it? If we put a pie chart up saying 9.4% of people like this, that, and the other, it still won't give us the power to do anything about it. So that's one of the points we can make one-to-one with people.
So that leads to my third point, which is we talked before about people in the town not understanding what the town council's responsibilities and decision processes are. Is this an opportunity to say, wherever the stall is, we have a board that says, this is what we can decide on, this is what we can influence, and this is completely outside of our control. And the road traffic thing is perhaps influenced, but it's not our decision. And by categorising it like that, we can say to people, we want your opinion, we have some influence, but we're not the decision-making body.
In the medium, the short term, in this context, short term, we have a document we did a couple of years ago, we saying these are our responsibilities, these are Northant's responsibilities, and highways is very clear. So I think having an A3 version of that to point to and say, we can influence. We can.
I think if we can meld those two things together at the stalls that you're having, and I'm happy to be on the 16th. If we can do that, we can kill a number of birds with the same stone.
Right, I think this document, I'll send you a copy, but I think the document would be useful. Do you remember
It's on our website as well.
Yeah, and it clearly says, we can do these things, they do these things, and we can just use that as a visual aid for that.
And then if you combine that with more of a tick sheet thing,
Yep.
and take out long term, because that implies time scales, priorities.
So we happy with medium, early, medium, long-term priorities, or?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, often you get these things where you get this list and you're asked to put them in your sort of numerical order. So it might be quite interesting to, if you didn't actually have a list that categorises them in that way at all, you just have a list of things, ask them to indicate what their preference is, but perhaps somewhere in the text have something to make it clear that to some degree, the bigger the project, the bigger the budget, the less likely it is to happen.
On that basis, this and the little 2-page document is simply a praise of the report, and that's the wording they use.
Yes.
So on that basis, it'll be simple to keep that like it is, but then if we do an online form, we could put all the points on, people could move them up and down, that's very easy to do on MS forms, and then we could do a paper version, which basically said this, that, and the other, with a little line at the top, so I'm very happy to.
The other thing, of course, to do would be to have an extra box that says other, because someone may come up with other priorities that aren't on any of those lists.
I'm happy to put you draft something on those lines, because I've got one of that, and just squirt it in. In the next day or so, and send it around and see what you think. Do come back with the changes, and hopefully we'll get to a place that everyone's relatively happy with. So in terms of what we need to do tonight, that's what we've received. It's just a report. I think hopefully that timescale gives us a couple of months to show that we've consulted, and then we can report back at annual town meetings, gives us a nice endpoint. And if we're, do we need to really vote?
Well, do you want, now the report has been done, do you want us to start putting that out on our website,
I think we
please?
should, but let's get this feedback form ready, because as soon as people see it, they'll start feedback. So maybe
Okay.
early next week.
Just where in the planning act. At some point, the planning committee is going to want to start referring to this document, I suspect. And I know we've talked about ensuring that the planning department and NC have a copy of it. Big question is when.
I don't think, once it goes in the public domain, having it on our website means you can send a link rather than a whole document. There's nothing wrong, I don't think, in saying, here's the report that TPP have sent us. Over the next couple of months, we're consulting, and then at least it's in the public domain, etc. That seems as the benefit of actually doing this process is it's out there. They can look at it. The other point, of course, is on the 31st of January, hopefully when 1, 2 or 3 of our North Northampton councillors are here, I can put that same presentation up for the business association called Chantor and Murmur or agreement or whatever it is. And we're not recommending it, we're just saying this is the word you've been given. And then that conversation starts with an NNC as well, hopefully.
It's a question that's crossed my mind when you mentioned business association. Is it worth on this board asking people where they live? Because that would impact on their view, and also asking if they own a business in or around Cambridge, or if they work in or around Cambridge. Because again, the report majored on the fact that we have a large number of local employers and the people live in town therefore walk. But it could have an impact on views.
I'm just thinking about the difference between accepting the report and, adopting it, if you like. And if we put it out too soon, I think to everybody, they'll think that we're going to be doing it. It's going to be quite difficult to stop general public, as it were, passing all these things around.
When the business association organised a meeting in here with Highways were very clear that they wouldn't even consider anything that hadn't been consulted on.
That's, yeah.
And therefore, I think we need to say we've received the report.
Make sure then that it's very
And
much.
we're listening to what people say,
Yeah, fine.
and we're not defending anything or
Yeah.
proposing, we're just listening, and then we can give that big pile of thoughts to them, and then they can come back saying, well, it's not going to happen for the next 10 years anyhow.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
No,
Yes, I was just going to say, I think by the fact that it's been on the agenda this evening and it's been discussed, I think it's got to be published.
Yes, that's because I've
It's already.
already been asked for it.
Yeah, anyone who's out there
Yeah.
this is going to say, where is it then?
Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I think if we just say that once we've got the feedback form ready, hopefully in the next couple of days, early next week, we can put it on the website and say we've received it.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
it is, and we'll do consultations, and if people want to come and talk to us in the next couple of weeks, here are the opportunities to come and talk to us.
Very clear when we put it on the website. We don't have the power to make any of this happen. But we want to because that will help us present it. however we word that, it's the first opportunity to say we've got it, or we don't have to.
Absolutely. That can be the phrase that goes on top of the paper form and the feedback. So I'll come up with a good one. Fantastic. Are we all okay to move on with that? Thank you very much, Steve, for that. 22-12802 to receive the SID report. This is the speeding report. That's the last
Not as
one.
bad, yeah.
Can I just say I like the presentation a bit better than the previous version, so you kind of summarised it better, I think, whoever did that, thank you, thank you.
It's Rebecca, didn't
I'll
it?
put
Well,
it well, Rebecca, again.
It is going to move to Beneford Road. Well, it could have been moved already, I'm not sure, but it is. It's moving this week.
Thank you for the presentation and the moving and keeping us fed, because it's interesting and it does support what TPP is saying about various things. And again, we can put all of that data and we shove it all into highways and here's lots of stuff.
And I don't think it makes a difference, I drive past it regularly.
It doesn't,
And you see people reacting to it.
Yeah, I've had 2 or 3 conversations only this week about how slowly it gets on things.
Yeah.
People talk about it. And then might reflect why this report is better than the previous report. 22-129, planning matters. David,
Minutes are there.
anything that anyone wants to say?
Nothing I particularly want to highlight.
The Picardy thing, it's strange, isn't it?
It's back again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
This is, I think, the 4th iteration plans for Picardy development. Previously, the view that we have taken is that there are problems with putting houses in all the places that they wanted because of the impact on the listed building. Because it makes Brian to learn that that building on frontage of New Road is listed building. And secondly, we're very concerned about having the access to this development, however big it is, off New Road, because it's close to the junction at one end and it's close to the recreation ground at the other, and we prefer that access to be off Bridge View. But it's coming back before us yet again in February, and I extend an invitation to any councillors who wish to come along to that meeting because of that application or otherwise to come and join us. But we'll look at it yet again and decide whether it's met any of our previous
I
objectives.
briefly looked at there's metal rings, that's.
I haven't had a chance to actually look at the revised plans, but Lisa drew it to my attention as soon as it happened by simply sending me an email that said, it's back again.
Yeah.
I think actually that one was buying Stoke Newell Road development.
Yeah.
See how many different iterations of plan they can get in before we actually get to a decision.
That's the data from New Road. No idea if it's a reasonable or any users will send that in for application. That's a lot of spreadsheet. Anyhow, thank you very much indeed. 22-130 is.
Sorry,
Oh, sorry, Max. Sorry.
I observed the meeting as the minutes say. I'm quite happy to actually become a formal member of that group if I need be. Is
it possible to nominate somebody to join the committee even though it's not on the agenda?
Well, if we have a look at, I did put communications working party, didn't I? Should have left that a little bit more vague, and then we could have just
Yes, we could have been elected
yeah.
members to committees. and
elected
working
people
parties.
for all sorts. Yeah,
If the chairman approves it, it sounds a good idea.
yeah. I'll
But
just
the
shall
chairman
I just write on the
proposes
end?
that Councillor Shura becomes a member of the committee.
I'm more than happy to do
So
that.
looking at other members of the committee as possible seconders.
Yeah.
But yes, that's so.
I can't see why that's an issue.
Yeah, I think just let me just put a line and
If nobody
say
objects.
Councillor
that's all.
Shura agreed to join the
We have to
committee.
reconfirm. They might be asked to join another committee.
yeah, well, there's actually-
In that case, I've got him first.
He's keen. So
So we've got a nomination, we've got a second there. We've got a second there, we're all happy to recommend, thank you very much indeed, thanks. Estates Committee Chair, do you want to, nomination as well?
Well, you haven't got anything. There is,
Right, okay, am I responsible for that?
well, no, it's just, I put it
So
on
I
there.
did see it was blank and I thought, okay.
I left it on there,
We didn't have a
because,
meeting, did we?
I knew you hadn't had a meeting, but just in case anything cropped up, but then it didn't, and it just stayed on
Well,
there.
no, yeah, we went to the workshop.
Yeah,
We went to the workshop,
but
we could also nominate.
no, because you haven't got any, yeah. Yeah, no, it is literally there, but there are no items for discussion.
Okay, so we've been beat by the technicality.
Next month.
We'll get you next time. Yeah.
If you want to talk about the workshop, do it as any other matters to report at the end.
Yeah,
We'll talk about it in a second. So communications working party 22131.1 to receive the latest article from the advertiser. Thank you very much indeed. Rebecca switched the Ukrainian support group photo in, which is great, and she's going to make a little alteration and put the first couple of transport surgeries down for the market, so that's out and about the week before the market, hopefully. So that's great. Thank you very much for her flexibility.
I thought a bit about the traffic, my system was very well written as well, I thought it was very good.
Well done, Rebecca.
What's that one?
The traffic warning system bit.
Yeah, I mean, many, made the point that it's for the benefit of the town, but people need to behave, and I just did it just right, I thought.
Excellent. Thank you very much indeed. Well done, Rebecca, that's good. And the advertiser's going in very soon. So,
Tomorrow, I think.
yeah. 2213102 to receive the Love Anvil video. This is simply something that I was emailing Rebecca and thought about something, and she thought it was a good idea. So I've started on the mainland now, the Love Anvil logo, the website.
We've all done it.
Yeah, and it just means that we're spreading the word. It's free advertising. I've made a clever hyperlink. I don't know how clever it is, but if you click on the logo, in theory, it goes through to the website. I have no idea if it will increase traffic, but it won't do any harm. I thought if we asked the ODA members to do it on the 31st, it's as much about them as it is about us. So it just seems something to do. So if you're happy, that would be great. If you don't understand the video, ask someone who knows what they're doing. 2213103, agree dates and venues for transport study surgery. We've already got a few of those running. If you have any ideas, dates that you'd like to be done, we've got a couple of months so we can move ahead with those. 22132, correspondence for information. We've got a newsletter and child criminal exploitation. Any questions or worries about those? No? So finally, any other relevant matters for report? Val? Anything?
No,
David? Sharon? Jamie?
We went to the workshop.
Hey. January.
It was interesting. It was good.
Yeah.
I think we probably need to discuss it more formally as a committee. We need to come up with some recommendations to put this. But yeah, I think there's potential for all sorts of things. There's potential for moving, there's potential for staying, but speaking to the leaseholder. So there's things will be.
It was good to see.
It was good to see. Yeah.
So thank you for Lisa and
Yes.
Bobby and Tony for
Yeah.
studying us down. That was good.
Yeah.
John, any thoughts?
No. Should we send a card of congratulations to one of our councillors?
That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a very good idea.
Which one?
Sorry?
Website. Oh, sorry. I've got drawn it. So. I thought it was there. And councillor card to Red saying congratulations on the baby.
Oh, she has had a baby.
Sorry,
I thought you would.
No, that's what I was saying at the beginning of the meeting.
Oh,
I
right,
got
okay.
Is there an excuse for not doing it?
Yeah,
When did she have it?
in the last 24 hours.
Oh, okay, right, yes, okay.
I said
I'll
I'd give her apologies for the question mark. Professionalism versus whatever, but yeah, so congratulations.
Yeah, I'll sort a card out.
Thank you very much indeed. Flowers? So am I allowed to send flowers?
If you want to, you can use your mayor's allowance if you want.
That'd be good.
Okay.
Something smallish.
I've got one.
So,
I'm just trying to open it. Where's it gone? I've had today. I had the certificate come through for the Herne Road development. On the 12th of January, it was finally adopted by Highways. Because up until now it was still managed and run, and all the roads were managed by the developer or their maintenance contract. So Northamptonshire Council Highways are now responsible for the Red Kite Drive, 213 metres, School View, 69 metres, and William Court, 54 metres.
okay, so that's
So
all.
do the developers still have responsibility for the play area?
I don't know, possibly.
I guess not, I guess so. 'Cause they were-
Yeah, that's not on here.
Take it over, so-
Highways, fine.
No, it's
To
not.
the highways.
Okay, good, thank you very much. David, one more point.
Yeah, sorry, I should have thought of this. Councillors may have noticed that the sold signs that have gone up on the garages
Oh,
by the recreation ground.
Oh, yeah.
Which slightly surprised me because it wasn't that long ago that in council we talked about the fact that we might quite like to acquire them if they were able to be acquired. Enable us to perhaps do some enhancement to the recreation ground. So I was a bit disappointed to discover that they'd come on the market, been sold, and I didn't think we were aware
I
of it.
saw the Hare market. I sent an email.
That would
Yeah.
include the one that got sold.
Yes, that's not the one that
But
was
I sent an email around.
Yeah, there definitely was something about it.
Was it? I must have missed it then.
That's fine. And again, at the time, I think this would have been our first chance to talk about it.
Well, yes.
Was it the money to do something with it?
No, no.
Does anybody know who's bought them?
No idea.
Presumably they're going to try and build up a house on there.
I
Yes.
will
So
say.
they're going to kind of get some.
Well,
We'll
yes,
find out soon.
in that there has been an application for redevelopment of garages that are on St Peter's Road.
Yeah.
So there's a precedent for trying to do that. But it's a terribly narrow area. I can honestly see how that kind of residential.
You look at what they've built on the end of, on the corner of East Road. They've built two quite, I mean, they're nice houses, but they're big houses, you know, tiny plot really.
Right, okay, thank you very much indeed. Nothing from anyone else? Let's shut. Thank you. Right, thank you very much indeed, everyone. Now, we've got a state speech.